The medical station floated in the darkness of space like a giant white flower. It orbited a planet called Kepler 442b, and it was the biggest hospital in that part of the galaxy. Aliens from hundreds of different worlds came here when they were sick or hurt. The station had the best doctors, the best machines, and the best medicine that anyone could find. On this particular day, something strange happened. A small rescue shuttle landed in the emergency bay. The doors opened with a hiss of steam, and a single figure stepped out. He was tall, with black hair and brown skin. He wore a torn uniform that was covered in dust and dried blood. His boots were falling apart, and his face was burned from too much sun. He was human. His name was Park Jun, and he was a commander in the Earth Space Fleet. The medical workers rushed toward him with their equipment. They were Velrani, a species with soft purple skin and 4 thin legs. They moved quickly, like water spiders on a pond. But when they got close to the human, they stopped. They stared at him with their large silver eyes. Are you the survivor from the crash? One of them asked. Jun nodded slowly. His throat was dry, and his voice came out rough like sandpaper. Yes. My shuttle went down on the desert planet 3 days ago. I walked to the emergency beacon. The Velrani workers looked at each other. Their antennae moved back and forth, which was their way of showing confusion. You walked? Another worker said. The beacon was 200 kilometers from the crash site. The planet's surface was over 50 degrees. There was no water, no shade, no transport. Jun shrugged his tired shoulders. I walked, he said again. It was the only way. The workers did not know what to say. In their experience, no creature could walk that far in such terrible conditions. It was simply not possible. The body would fail. The muscles would stop working. The heart would give up. But here was this human, standing on his own 2 feet, asking for a glass of water. They took him inside the station and placed him on a floating medical bed. The bed scanned his body automatically and sent the information to the main computer. Nurses came to clean his wounds and give him fluids. Jun lay back and closed his eyes. He was very, very tired. Meanwhile, in the upper levels of the station, a young doctor named Yira was studying her research files. Yira was also Velrani. She had soft lavender skin that was a little lighter than most of her kind. Her eyes were large and curious, and she always asked too many questions. This was why she had become a scientist. She wanted to understand everything. Yira specialized in xenobiology, which meant she studied the bodies of different alien species. She had examined hundreds of different life forms. She knew about the 6 hearts of the Drakari warriors. She knew about the electric skin of the Nuveen fish people. She knew about the crystal bones of the Torith miners, but she had never examined a human, not in person. She had only read about them in books and files. Humans were strange creatures. They came from a small blue planet called Earth, which was very far away on the edge of the galaxy. They were new to space travel, having only left their world about 800 years ago. But in that short time, they had spread across many star systems. They built colonies. They made alliances. They fought wars and won them. Many aliens did not understand how humans had become so successful. They were not the strongest species. They were not the fastest. They were not the smartest. They did not have claws or fangs or armor or poison. They could not fly. They could not breathe underwater. They could not survive in extreme cold or extreme heat, and yet somehow, they kept winning. Yura had always wanted to know why. When she heard about the human survivor, she immediately requested to be his doctor. Her supervisor, an old Velrani named Tovan, looked at her with worried eyes. Are you sure? Tovan asked. Humans can be unpredictable. They do not follow normal biological rules. That is exactly why I want to study him, Yira said. This human walked 200 kilometers through a desert that should have killed him. I need to understand how. Tovan sighed and gave her permission. Yura walked down to the recovery ward with her medical tablet in her hands. Her forelegs moved quickly, carrying her through the clean white hallways. She passed other doctors and nurses, other patients and visitors. She barely noticed any of them. Her mind was focused on the human. When she entered the room, she found him awake. He was sitting up on the bed, drinking water from a large container. He looked up when she came in, and he smiled at her. It was a strange smile, warm, friendly, open. Most species did not show their teeth when they smiled, because showing teeth was a sign of aggression. But humans smiled with their teeth all the time. Yura had read about this. It was supposed to show happiness. "Hello," the human said. His voice was deeper than she expected. "Are you my doctor?" Yura felt her skin grow darker. This was what happened when Velrani felt strong emotions. It was like blushing. She hoped the human did not notice. "Yes," she said. "I am Dr. Yura. I will be taking care of you during your recovery, Commander Park." "Please call me June," he said. Commander Park sounds too formal. Yura nodded and looked at her tablet. The medical scans had finished processing. She began to read the results, and her eyes grew wider with each line. His bones were denser than they should be. His muscles contained more fibers than any other species she had studied. His heart was powerful and efficient. His blood carried oxygen with amazing speed. His skin could repair itself faster than expected. But the most amazing thing was his legs. Yura stared at the scan images of his lower limbs. The muscles there were incredible. The tendons were like steel cables. The joints were designed for endless repetition. These legs were not built for speed. They were not built for power. They were built for distance. Yura looked up from her tablet, stared at the human sitting on the bed. He was drinking his water calmly, as if he had not just done something impossible. June," she said slowly. "May I ask you a question? Of course, how did you survive? The desert should have killed you. Any other species would have died within the first day. But you walked for 3 days. How?" June put down his water container. He looked at her with his strange brown eyes, and he smiled again. "My grandmother used to tell me a story," he said. "Long ago, before humans had cities or machines, we were hunters. But we were not fast like the big cats. We were not strong like the bears. So we learned a different way to hunt." He leaned forward slightly. "We learned to follow. We would pick an animal and start walking after it. The animal would run away, of course. It was faster than us. But we kept walking. The animal would stop to rest. We would keep walking. The animal would run again. We would keep walking. Hour after hour. Day after day, Yura listened with growing fascination. Eventually, June continued, the animal would be too tired to run anymore. Its body would fail. It would collapse. And we would be there still walking, ready to make the kill. We call it persistence hunting. It is how our ancestors survived." He tapped his legs with his hands. These legs were made for walking. They were made for following. They were made for never giving up. He smiled at her. "The desert was hot. The distance was long. But I just kept walking. It is what humans do." Yura felt something she had never felt before. It was a mix of fear and admiration. This creature, this human, was more dangerous than he looked. Not because he was fast, not because he was strong, but because he never stopped. The alien doctor flushed and asked, "May I try that human part between your legs?" The next morning came slowly on the medical station. There was no real sunrise in space, of course. The station made its own light, changing from dim blue to bright white to show when the day cycle had begun. Yura woke up in her small sleeping room and immediately thought about the human. She had not slept well. Her mind had been too busy thinking about what June had told her. Persistence hunting. Walking until the prey could not run anymore. It was such a simple idea, but it was also terrifying. Most predators in the galaxy relied on speed or strength or surprise. Humans relied on patience. They relied on time. They relied on the fact that eventually everything else would get tired. Why? Ira got dressed in her clean white medical coat and walked to the food hall. She ate a small breakfast of nutrient paste and mineral water. The food was not tasty, but it gave her body everything it needed. Velrani did not eat for pleasure. They ate for function. As she ate, she thought about what she wanted to learn from the human. His leg muscles were clearly special. The scans showed that they were different from any other species she had studied. But scans could only tell her so much. She needed to examine him directly. She needed to touch the muscles, feel their density, understand their structure. But this was a problem. In Velrani culture, legs were very personal. The Velrani had 4 legs, and each leg was sensitive and important. Touching someone's legs without permission was considered extremely rude. It was almost like touching their private parts. Only family members or very close friends were allowed to touch each other's legs. And even then, it was a sign of deep trust and affection. Yura knew that humans might have different customs, but she was still nervous. She did not want to offend her patient. She did not want to make him uncomfortable, but she also really wanted to understand how his legs worked. She finished her breakfast and walked to the recovery ward. The hallways were busy with morning activity. Nurses pushed floating beds. Doctors talked in small groups. Patients walked slowly, getting their exercise. Yura moved past all of them without stopping. When she reached June's room, she paused outside the door. She took a deep breath to calm her nerves. Then she pressed the button, and the door slid open. June was already awake. He was sitting on the edge of his bed, doing something strange with his legs. He was bending them up and down, in a slow and steady motion. "Good morning, doctor," he said when he saw her. His voice was friendly, as it had been the day before. "I hope you slept well." "I did," Yura lied. "What are you doing with your legs?" "Stretching," June said. "After walking so far, my muscles got very tight. If I do not stretch them, they will become stiff and painful. This helps keep them flexible." Yura watched with great interest. She had never seen anyone stretch before. The Valrani did not need to stretch. Their legs were thin and light, not thick with muscle. "I watch?" she asked. "Of course." June continued his stretching, bending one leg up to his chest and holding it there. "You can come closer if you want." Yura walked closer until she was standing right next to the bed. She could see his leg muscles moving under his skin. They were large and defined, like cables wrapped in cloth. She felt her skin growing darker again with excitement.
"At the muscles,"
she said softly. "They are so big, so dense. Our scans showed that they contain 3 times more fibers than the average galactic species." "Really?" June looked genuinely surprised. "I never thought about it. These are just normal human legs, normal for your species, perhaps, but for the rest of the galaxy, they are extraordinary." Yura looked at her tablet, checking his medical information. "I would like to conduct a physical examination, if you do not mind." "Go ahead," June said. "Whatever you need." Yura hesitated. She felt her heart's beating faster. She had to ask the question, but she did not know how to ask it without sounding strange. "The examination," she said slowly, "would require me to touch your legs. Specifically, the muscles in your upper legs, the thighs." She felt her skin flush to a deep violet color. In Velrani culture, touching another person's legs is very personal, very intimate. "I understand if this makes you uncomfortable. I understand if you want to refuse. But I believe that your leg muscles hold the key to understanding human endurance. And I would very much like to study them directly." She forced herself to look at his face. "So I must ask you, may I try that human part between your legs? The thigh muscles? May I touch them and examine them?" For a moment, June just stared at her. Then his face changed. His mouth opened wide, and a strange sound came out of his throat. It took Yura a moment to realize that he was laughing. "I am sorry," she said quickly. "I have offended you. I will leave now." "Oh, no, wait," June said, still laughing. He held up his hand to stop her from going. "You did not offend me. I am laughing because on my planet, touching someone's leg is not a big deal at all. Doctors touch patients' legs all the time. Friends touch each other's legs. It is completely normal." Yura blinked. "Really? Really?" June stopped laughing, but he was still smiling. "I understand that your culture is different, and I respect that. But please, do not be embarrassed. If you need to touch my legs for medical purposes, go ahead. I give you full permission. Yura felt a wave of relief wash over her. She also felt a little foolish. She had been so worried about nothing. Thank you, she said. I will be gentle. She put down her tablet and moved closer to the bed. June extended his right leg so that it was easier to reach. Yura reached out with her four-fingered hand and placed it on his thigh. The first thing she noticed was the warmth. Human skin was very warm compared to Velrani's skin. It was like touching a heating pad. The second thing she noticed was the hardness. Under the soft skin, the muscle was firm and solid, like a stone wrapped in fabric. She pressed her fingers into the muscle, feeling its shape and structure. It was incredible. The fibers were packed so tightly together. The tissue was so strong. She could feel the power stored inside, like energy waiting to be released. By the 9 stars, she whispered. You are built like a siege engine. June laughed again. A siege engine. I have never heard that comparison before. It is true, Yura said, still examining his leg. This muscle is designed for continuous work. It can contract and relax thousands of times without failing. It repairs itself while it is still working. It stores energy efficiently and releases it slowly. She shook her head in amazement. No wonder you could walk for 3 days. These legs are made for exactly that purpose. She moved her hand down to his calf, feeling the muscle there. It was equally impressive. Then she checked his knee joint, which was strong and flexible. Finally, she examined his ankle and foot. Your foot is interesting too, she said. The arch shape helps absorb shock. The toes help with balance. The heel is thick to handle repeated impacts. Everything about your lower body is designed for walking. Evolution, June said. Our ancestors walked across plains and mountains for millions of years. Our bodies adapted to make that easier. Yura stepped back and picked up her tablet again. She made many notes about what she had discovered. Her mind was racing with ideas and questions. I have one more question, she said. When you were walking through the desert, did you ever want to stop? Did you ever want to give up? June was quiet for a moment. He looked out the window at the stars beyond. Yes, he said finally. Many times. The heat was terrible. My water ran out on the second day. My feet were bleeding inside my boots. Every step hurt. Every breath burned my throat. He looked back at her. But I thought about my family back on Earth. I thought about my mother and my father and my sister. I thought about all the things I still wanted to do with my life. And I decided that I was not ready to die. So I kept walking. He smiled. But this time it was a sad smile. Humans are not special because we cannot feel pain or fear. We feel those things just like everyone else. We are special because we can feel them and still keep going. We are special because we can choose to continue even when everything tells us to stop. Yura felt something warm growing in her chest. It was not a physical sensation. It was an emotion. She was feeling something toward this human that she had never felt toward a patient before. She was feeling respect. Deep, true respect. Thank you, June, she said softly. Thank you for teaching me this. I think I am beginning to understand your species. June nodded. And I am beginning to understand yours, Doctor. I hope we can keep learning from each other. Yura smiled. It was not a human smile with teeth. It was a Velrani smile with softened eyes and relaxed antennae. But it meant the same thing. She was happy. The alien doctor flushed and asked, May I try that human part between your legs? Word about the human spread quickly through the medical station. At first, it was just whispers among the nurses. Then it became conversations among the doctors. Then it became the main topic of discussion for everyone on the station. From the cleaning workers to the administrators. A human had walked 200 kilometers through a deadly desert. A human had survived conditions that would have killed any other species. A human was recovering in the medical ward, and he would probably be fine in just a few more days. It was unbelievable. It was impossible. But it was true. By the 3rd day of June's recovery, visitors started coming to his room. Aliens of all shapes and sizes wanted to see the human with their own eyes. Some of them were curious. Some of them were impressed. Some of them just wanted to know if the stories were really true. June handled the attention with patience and good humor. He answered questions. He told his story again and again. He let people look at his legs and touch his muscles if they asked politely. He was friendly to everyone, even when he was tired. Ira watched all of this from the corner of the room. She had become June's unofficial protector, making sure that visitors did not stay too long or tire him out too much. She told herself that she was just doing her job as his doctor, but secretly, she knew there was more to it. She had become attached to this human. She liked being near him. She liked talking to him. On the fourth day, something happened that changed everything. A group of Dracari soldiers came to the station. The Dracari were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They were tall and muscular, with thick scales covering their bodies like armor. They had sharp claws, sharp teeth, and sharp minds. They were born warriors, and they were very proud of it. The group had come to the station for medical checks before a long military mission. Their leader was a general named Koth. He was bigger than the other Dracari, with dark green scales and bright yellow eyes. He had scars all over his body from many battles. He walked like he owned every room he entered. Koth heard the stories about the human. He heard how everyone was impressed by the walking. He heard how the aliens were treating this human like some kind of hero, and he did not like it. Humans, he growled to his soldiers. Soft little creatures. No scales, no claws, no strength. And everyone is praising them because one of them took a long walk? It is ridiculous. The soldiers agreed. They always agreed with General Koth. Koth decided to meet this human himself. He wanted to see what all the talk was about. And maybe, he thought, he would remind everyone who the real warriors were. That afternoon, June was in the station's main food hall. He had been cleared to leave his room and walk around as long as he did not push himself too hard. He was sitting at a table, eating a bowl of rice that he had made from the food machine. Making rice had taken him almost an hour of programming, but it was worth it. It tasted like home. Yura was sitting across from him, eating her own meal of nutrient paste. They were talking about Earth and its strange customs. June was telling her about something called kimchi, which was vegetables buried in the ground until they became sour and spicy. Yura could not understand why anyone would eat rotten vegetables on purpose. But she listened politely. Then General Koth walked in. The entire food hall went quiet. Everyone knew who Koth was. Everyone knew his reputation. He had killed enemies with his bare hands. He had led armies to victory in a dozen wars. He was not someone you wanted to make angry. Koth looked around the room until his yellow eyes found June, then he walked over, his heavy footsteps shaking the floor. His soldiers followed behind him like shadows. June looked up from his rice. He did not seem scared. He did not seem nervous. He just looked curious. "You are the human," Koth said. It was not a question. "I am a human," June replied calmly. "My name is Park June. Is there something I can help you with?" Koth laughed. It was a harsh sound, like rocks grinding together. "Help me." "No, I came to see if the stories were true. They say you walked across a desert for 3 days. They say your species has some kind of special power." "No special power," June said. "Just determination." Determination. Koth spat the word like it was something dirty. "The Dracari have determination too. We also have speed and strength and power. What do humans have? Soft skin? Weak bones? You are prey animals pretending to be predators." Yura felt anger rising inside her. She wanted to say something, but she was afraid of Koth. His soldiers were watching her, and she knew she was no match for them. But June did not seem angry at all. He just kept eating his rice. "Maybe right," June said. "Humans are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest. But we have survived this long because we have something else." "And what is that?" Koth asked. June looked up at him. His brown eyes were steady and calm. "We do not give up." Koth stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed again. Brave words from a small creature. "Let me offer you a challenge, human. If you think you are so good at not giving up, prove it." The whole food hall was listening now. No one was eating. No one was talking. Everyone wanted to hear what would happen next. "What kind of challenge?" June asked. A race, Koth said. 3 laps around the station's outer ring. That is about 15 kilometers. You and me, running until one of us cannot run anymore. The loser must admit that their species is inferior. Yura's heart sank. This was not fair. June was still recovering. His body was still healing. And the Dracari were famous for their explosive speed. In a short race, Koth would win easily. "June, no," she said quickly. "You are still my patient. Your body needs more time. I cannot allow this." His eyes were kind, but there was something else in them too. Something hard. Something determined. "Doctor," he said gently, "I appreciate your concern. But this is not just about me. This is about my species. If I refuse, everyone will think humans are cowards. But if you race and lose, everyone will think humans are weak," Yura said. June smiled. "Who said I would lose?" He stood up from the table and faced General Koth. They were very different in size. Koth was at least a foot taller and twice as wide. His muscles bulged under his scales. His claws could cut through metal, but June did not back down. "I accept your challenge," June said. 3 laps around the outer ring. Tomorrow morning, when the day cycle begins. Koth's yellow eyes widened with surprise. He had not expected the human to agree so quickly. "Very well," Koth said. "Tomorrow morning, and when I win, you will tell everyone that humans are inferior to Dracari. And when I win," June said quietly, "you will tell everyone that you underestimated us." Koth laughed once more and walked away with his soldiers. When they were gone, the food hall exploded with noise. Everyone was talking about the race. Everyone was making predictions. Most of them thought Koth would win. Yura grabbed June's arm. "This is madness," she said. "Koth is a trained warrior. He is faster and stronger than you. How can you possibly beat him?" June sat back down and picked up his spoon. He took another bite of rice before answering. "I do not need to be faster," he said. "I just need to keep going longer." Yura did not understand. "What do you mean?" "The Dracari are built for short bursts of speed and power," June explained. "They are like sprinters. They can run very fast, but they cannot run for very long. Their muscles use energy too quickly. They overheat. They get tired." He pointed at his own legs. "Humans are different. We are built for distance. Our bodies can regulate temperature through sweating. Our muscles can work for hours without failing. Our hearts can pump blood efficiently for a very long time." He looked at Yura with confidence in his eyes. 15 kilometers is not a sprint. It is an endurance test. And endurance is what humans do best. Ala wanted to believe him. She wanted to trust his words. But she was still afraid. "What if you are wrong?" she asked. "What if your body fails?" June reached out and gently touched her hand. It was a human gesture of comfort, and Yura felt her skin warm at the contact. "Then I will fail trying," June said. "That is better than not trying at all." That night, Yura could not sleep again. She lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about the race. She thought about June's quiet confidence. She thought about Koth's arrogant laughter, and she thought about what it would mean if June actually won. It would change everything. It would prove that strength and speed were not the only things that mattered. It would prove that patience and determination could overcome raw power. It would prove that humans were more than just soft little creatures. Yura closed her eyes and made a wish. She did not believe in gods or magic. She believed in science and facts. But in that moment, she allowed herself to hope. "Please," she whispered to the empty room. "Please let him win," the alien doctor flushed and asked. "May I try that human part between your legs?" The morning of the race arrived. The entire medical station seemed to hold its breath. By the time the day cycle lights turned on, hundreds of aliens had already gathered around the viewing screens. They filled the hallways and the food halls and the observation decks. Everyone wanted to watch. The outer ring of the station was a long curved corridor that wrapped around the entire structure. It was used for cargo transport and emergency access. Today it would be a racetrack. Yura stood near the starting line with her medical equipment ready. Her job was to monitor both runners and make sure no one died. But really, she was there to support June. She was there because she could not stay away. June arrived first. He was wearing simple exercise clothes that he had found in the station's supply room. His face was calm. His body was relaxed. He did some stretching, bending his legs and moving his arms. A few aliens watched him with curiosity. They still could not believe he had accepted the challenge. Then General Koth arrived. The crowd made room for him as he walked through. He was wearing traditional Dracari racing armor, which was light but strong. His scales shone under the station lights. His muscles rippled with every step. He looked like a predator ready to hunt. The two runners stood at the starting line. Koth towered over June. The difference in size was almost comical. Many aliens in the crowd laughed quietly. Already certain of the outcome, the race official, a small round alien called a Plinx, floated between them. 3 laps of the outer ring, the Plinx announced. Approximately 15 kilometers total. The first runner to cross this line after completing all 3 laps wins. If a runner cannot continue, the other runner wins by default. The Plinx looked at both of them. Are you ready? Ready, Koth growled. Ready, June said quietly. The Plinx raised a small flag. The crowd fell silent. Yura felt her 3 hearts pounding. The flag dropped. Koth exploded forward like a rocket. His powerful legs launched him down the corridor at incredible speed. Within seconds, he was far ahead, his form becoming smaller and smaller in the distance. The crowd gasped. Some aliens cheered for him. The Dracari were famous for their speed, and Koth was showing exactly why. June did not explode. June did not sprint. June simply started running at a steady, moderate pace. He looked almost casual, as if he was out for a morning jog instead of competing in a race. The crowd murmured in confusion. Why was the human so slow? Was he giving up already? Did he not understand how races worked? Yura watched the viewing screens carefully. She could see Koth racing around the first curve, already finishing almost a quarter of the first lap. She could see June still near the beginning, jogging along at his careful pace. The difference was enormous. It seemed impossible for June to catch up, but Yara remembered what June had said. This was not a sprint. This was an endurance test. And the test had only just begun. By the end of the first lap, Koth was still far ahead. He crossed the starting line with a triumphant roar, barely even breathing hard. His soldiers cheered. Some aliens began collecting their bets early, certain that Koth had already won. June was still on his first lap when Koth started his second. He was jogging along at the same steady pace. His breathing was even. His expression was calm. He did not look at the crowd. He did not look at the screens. He just kept running. During the second lap, something began to change. Koth was still ahead, but his speed was dropping. His powerful muscles had used up a lot of energy in that explosive start. His body was generating heat faster than it could release it. Unlike humans, Dracari could not sweat. They had to cool down through heavy breathing and rest. But Koth was not resting. He was still running. By the middle of the second lap, Koth had slowed to half his original speed. His breathing was loud and rough. His scales were darker than before, a sign of overheating. He was still ahead, but the gap was closing. June was still jogging at the same pace. He had not sped up. He had not slowed down. Sweat was running down his face and body, but this was good. This was how humans cooled themselves. His muscles were warm, but not overheated. His heart was beating strong and steady. Yura watched the gap between them shrink with every minute. 100 meters. 80 meters. 50 meters. The crowd began to notice. The murmuring grew louder. Aliens pointed at the screens. This was not supposed to happen. The Dracari was supposed to be winning easily. By the end of the second lap, Koth was staggering. His legs were shaking. His breath came in painful gasps. He crossed the starting line and looked back, expecting to see the human far behind. But June was right there. He was only 30 meters behind, still jogging at his steady pace. Koth's yellow eyes widened with shock. "It's impossible," he whispered. June passed him without a word. He did not speed up. He did not celebrate. He just kept running. Koth tried to follow. He forced his burning legs to move. But they would not cooperate. His body had reached its limit. Halfway through the third lap, General Koth, warrior of the Drakery, conqueror of 6 star systems, collapsed on the floor. He could not continue. The medical team rushed to help him. They carried him away on a floating stretcher. He was not badly hurt, just completely exhausted. His body had used up everything it had. Meanwhile, June kept running. He completed the third lap at the same steady pace. When he crossed the finish line, there was no enemy left to beat. Koth was already gone. June had won by default. The corridor was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, the applause began. It started with the Velrani nurses, who had seen June's impossible survival firsthand. It spread to the doctors and the workers. It grew until the entire station was clapping, cheering, stomping their feet or tentacles, or whatever they had. The human had won. Not through speed, not through strength, but through endurance, through patience. Through the simple refusal to stop, June stood at the finish line, breathing slightly harder than when he started. Sweat covered his body. His legs were tired, but he was smiling. Yura ran to him and threw her arms around him. It was not a Valrani gesture. It was a human gesture that she had learned from watching him. It was called a hug. "You did it," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You actually did it." June hugged her back. His body was warm and solid and alive. "I told you," he said softly. "Humans do not give up." The alien doctor flushed and asked, "May I try that human part between your legs?" That evening, the medical station was different. The air felt lighter. The sound seemed brighter. Everyone was still talking about the race, still amazed by what they had seen. The human had beaten the Drakery, not by luck, not by cheating, but by simply continuing when his opponent could not. General Koth recovered in the medical ward. His body was fine, but his pride was damaged. He had promised to declare that his species was inferior if he lost. But when he woke up, he did not do this. Instead, he asked to speak with June. Yura brought June to Koth's room. She was worried that there might be trouble. Drakery were proud creatures, and losing could make them angry. But when they entered, Koth did not look angry. He looked thoughtful, human Koth said. He was lying on a medical bed, his great body tired and still. "You beat me, yes," June said simply. "I called your species weak. I called you prey animals. I said you had no real strength." Koth's yellow eyes met June's brown ones. "I was wrong." June nodded but did not speak. "I have fought in many wars," Koth continued. "I have killed enemies with my bare hands. I always believed that power was the most important thing. Speed and strength. The ability to destroy your enemies quickly." He shook his great head. "But you showed me something different. You showed me that lasting longer than your enemy is also a kind of power. Maybe an even greater kind." Koth reached out his clawed hand. June looked at it for a moment, then took it in his own soft human hand. They shook, a gesture of respect that both species understood. "I will not say that humans are superior to Drakery," Koth said. "My pride will not allow that. But I will say that I underestimated you, and I will not make that mistake again." June smiled. "That is all I wanted." When they left Koth's room, Yura was smiling too. She had been afraid of violence, but instead she had witnessed something beautiful. Two warriors from very different worlds had found respect for each other. Later that night, Yura found June on the observation deck. This was a large room with windows that looked out into space. Stars filled the darkness like scattered diamonds. Distant nebulas glowed with soft colors. It was one of the most beautiful views on the station. June was standing alone, looking out at the stars. His reflection floated in the glass like a ghost. Yura walked up and stood beside him. For a while, neither of them spoke. They just watched the universe together. "You could have run faster," Yura finally said. "I reviewed your data during the race. Your body was operating at about 60% of its full capacity. You could have one by a much bigger margin. June smiled without looking away from the stars. I did not need to win by a large margin. I just needed to finish. But why? You could have shown everyone how powerful humans really are. June turned to look at her. His brown eyes were soft and kind. My grandmother taught me many things, he said. One of them was this: never destroy your enemy completely. If you crush them too hard, they will hate you forever. But if you beat them with respect, they might become your friend. He looked back at the stars. Koth is proud. If I had embarrassed him completely, he would have spent his life trying to get revenge. But because I won quietly, without showing off, he was able to accept it. He was able to learn from it. Yura thought about this. It was a strange kind of wisdom. The Velrani were peaceful by nature, so they did not often think about enemies and victory. But she understood what June was saying. Sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to use all of your strength. You are a very unusual creature, Park June, she said. Just June, he reminded her. And you are a very unusual creature too, Dr. Yura. They stood in silence again for a few moments. Then Yura spoke. I have a request, she said. A personal request, not a medical one. June raised an eyebrow. What is it? Yura felt her skin growing darker with nervousness. Her hearts were beating faster. She knew this was a big thing to ask, but she had to try. I want to continue studying your species, she said. Not just your legs, but everything. Your minds, your emotions, your culture, your history. She paused. I want to understand why humans are the way they are. June waited. He could sense there was more. The best way to do this, Yura continued, would be to travel with you. To see humans in their natural environment, to observe them in their daily lives. She looked at him directly. I would like to join you when you leave this station. I would like to go to Earth with you, if you will have me. June's eyes widened with surprise. This was not what he had expected. You would leave your home? Your job? Everything you know? Yura nodded. For science? For understanding. And for... She hesitated. For you. June was quiet for a long time. His face showed many emotions. Surprise, uncertainty, happiness. Finally, he smiled. I think I would like that very much, he said. But I should warn you. Earth is very different from this station. It has weather. It has oceans. It has mountains and forests and deserts. You survived a desert once, Yura said. I think I can manage. June laughed. It was a warm sound that made Yura's hearts feel light. Very well, Dr. Yura. When my ship comes to take me home, you are welcome to join me.